Welcoming traveler. Get ready to level up in fantasy football.
Come one, come all, to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Evan. Evan, how are the wings?
The wings were fantastic. A little spicy. Lips are burning right now. Tried to shove them down so I could get over here to the podcast with you, Mike, and try and do a little sound check since, you're in a different state.
Yeah, I'm coming at you live from Diaper Tower. We're doing some renovations on our new house. I built a fence. Changed some doorknobs. My mom and my brother are here, and they're crushing it. So, Tessa, Alex, if you're listening, thank you. But we're here to talk about football. We're not here to talk about the Diaper Tower. Evan, cold open question. Who is your favorite interior offensive lineman from the class?
Completely different than the cold open that I thought we were going to have. Interior offensive lineman, can I go with one of the top guys, Graham Barton? Versatility, played tackle, played guard, played center. So he's got 5 position versatility on that offensive line from Duke.
Yeah, no, great choice. I think that he could be a stud guard if they put him there, but he definitely has the ability to play anywhere else. I am personally excited about Jackson Powers Johnson, JPJ, as we all know. Absolute animal. He's built like a fire hydrant. But before we get any further, I'm going to let you hit some news and notes while I try to figure out how to not echo.
And now it's time for news and notes.
All right, so we have a little bit of news that popped off. A couple trades recently, and then we also have the arrest, not arrest, warrant, drag racing. What are we doing situation? So the Jets acquired Hassan Reddick. Obviously, this is more IDP related from my Eagles, which is a sad thing to see Hassan go. But we'll be able to move on and move through. Typical Howie Roseman, though, trading away players that are starting to hit that 30-plus range that are expensive and just trying to figure out how to backfill with guys that are just as expensive but 3-4 years younger. And then Titans getting L'Jarius Sneed, big move for the Titans. Now they have somebody at every level. All right, so also we have the Broncos getting Josh Reynolds out of free agency. $7 million a year for 2 years, so 2-year, $14 million contract for him. The Broncos are a dumpster fire, and that's about all there is to say about the Broncos because they are absolutely atrocious. The offense is looking horrible. Defense is looking like a work in progress. And then we also have the Rashee Rice situation, which you probably saw a bunch of offers this past week come out from multiple different players in your league, whether they're trying to buy Rashee Rice or they're trying to sell Rashee Rice. So I don't know. I mean, driving a Corvette does sound like a lot of fun. I can definitely understand trying to go fast. When you're young, you think you're invincible. And when you start waking up with some back pain from playing in the league for multiple years, you realize you're not invincible. And you also realize you should probably slow your life down.
Yeah, 100% agree. So I actually used to have a Mustang that I had to get rid of because I realized I didn't have the self-control to have the Mustang. So I can identify with Rashee Rice a little bit. I never put other people in danger in the way that he did, which is kind of unfortunate. If we've seen anything from past situations in the NFL, whether it's domestic abuse, some other off-the-field issues, even if he is suspended because nobody died, it's not going to be that long. Sorry to be so blunt about it, but the NFL is pretty soft-handed with punishments, especially when it's a player that we all know like Rashee Rice. So it's unfortunate. Cool. Any other news and notes you want to hit into? How do I sound? A little better?
A little bit better.
We'll take it.
Yeah, marginal,
All right. Well, let's get into our main segment.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
For those of you that were with us last week, we went through all of the AFC depth charts. We tried to find some good opportunities for fantasy points, talk about some hot button players, and figure out overvalued, undervalued, or just right. Little mama bear, papa bear, baby bear test. But now we go for the NFC teams, try and see who's good, who's bad, who's who in the zoo. And Evan, once you're done coughing, if you'd like to lead us off.
Yeah, the wings are kicking back. All right,
Yeah.
that kicking hot sauce. It's fighting me a little bit. All right, so yeah, we're gonna start talking about my favorite division in the NFC. Maybe it's a little biased. They do have my Eagles in them. So we're gonna start off with the NFC East, and we're gonna start off with the big bad of the NFC East, the team that people either love or you absolutely hate, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys. All right, so we're looking at a Dallas Cowboy roster that has Dak Prescott still under contract for one more year, CeeDee Lamb 1 more year. So you got 2 big contracts coming up next offseason for them. Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert. Who knows? A bunch of trash cans at running back. I guess technically Rico Dowdle is the number 1 right now, and then tight end Jake Ferguson. So I want to highlight Jake Ferguson. Is there anybody else on this team you want to talk about, Mike?
Yeah, let's hammer out the Jake Ferguson chat because I think it's going to be an exciting one. And then we can talk a little bit about the contract disparity that we're going to see. But that's a future problem for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk about Jake.
Yeah, so you continuously look under Mike McCarthy, and they've continuously produced tight end ones, whether it was Dalton Schultz, whether it's now Jake Ferguson. And you're seeing values be assigned to the players based off of that. You're seeing the fact that Jake Ferguson also has an extra year above Dak Prescott. I think for the most part, most people expect Dak to get an extension, which means there's going to be some stability there. Schoonmaker has looked like an absolute dud, hasn't really done much. So it's pretty clear that Ferguson is the 2, maybe 3 in that offense from a pass catching weapons standpoint. CeeDee Lamb, the de facto number 1, pretty clear, makes perfect sense. It'll be really interesting. I think they end up going running back in the draft, so it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, Jake Ferguson, you're looking for a tight end 1 for Dynasty. You're looking for a guy that's outside of those top 5 Dynasty tight ends that you're going to have to pay a premium for. I think he's that guy.
While I was getting ready for this show, something that I thought was interesting is Jake Ferguson. He's the safety blanket for Dallas. He's the number 2 target earner in that system. But right now, we're valuing the age a little too highly. He's currently above Evan Ingram when we're talking about some of the values. He's above Michael Mayer, who I thought was a better prospect coming out and has an opportunity to move forward with improved quarterback play. I like him because he's a little cheaper than those premium options and he can give you that low tight end 1 output. I just don't think that he's ever you're not going to win a championship because of Jake Ferguson. He's just a piece that you rode along the way, whether it's a bye week fill-in or as an elite tight end 2 on your offense. So I'm not really looking at him as a piece that I'm trying to get if I'm contending, but he provides a very safe floor week to week.
Yeah, and with the tight end landscape being how it is in fantasy football right now, Ferguson, I mean, if you want to pass on those top guys, he's a target in the middle rounds.
Yeah. I actually think there's more good tight ends than there has been in quite a while. Like, we're talking about Laporta, we're talking about Kincaid, we're talking about Ingram, we're talking about Pitts, we're talking about all of these guys. Like, the idea of it being a wasteland has kind of gone away in 1 year. And now we're getting Bowers too. We're getting maybe Jatavion Sanders if he shines a little bit. There's a lot of reasons to be excited. You want to talk a little bit about the Dallas contracts and how gross they're about to get?
Yeah, I mean, that Dallas situation, it is a very clear reason why they ended up not really doing anything in free agency this year. The picture of Jerry Jones at the owners' meeting was floating around Twitter for a while there with just a bunch of scribbles on his notepad, and that is Jerry Jones's plan to the offseason. Just scribble a bunch of things down that really mean nothing and do basically nothing, run the team back, hope that you can get some players to step up. And hope for the absolute best because they're going to have some giant contracts that they're going to need to hand out. CeeDee Lamb's going to need a contract. Micah Parsons going to need a contract. Dak Prescott's going to need a contract. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point, Dak's getting $50+ million a year.
Yep.
So
They need a new contract at 3 of the highest paid positions in football all at the same time. Not ideal. Like, great that they have good players there, but it's just not how you want to be paying all those guys all at once. So maybe they can get them under the cap. Maybe they can't. I feel like this is enough Cowboys talk. Let's talk about your boys, the Eagles.
all right, so moving on to the best team in the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles. We got Jalen Hurts just absolutely locked up in his contract. A.J. Brown being the de facto number 1 there. We got Smitty that's coming in, 24, and then his 5th-year option. Devontae Parker, I guess, technically is wide receiver 3. I really would like to see them draft some later round wide receiver, some early day 3 wide receiver to try and compete for that wide receiver 3 spot. Dallas Goedert as tight end always ends up being injured. They always end up cycling through at some point. A couple other tight ends, and then the man, the myth, the legend coming back from Penn State to Pennsylvania, Saquon Barkley. All right, so I would really like to talk about Jalen Hurts because I think everybody this offseason, and maybe it's just leagues that I'm in, like, I don't know, maybe you can confirm this. Jalen Hurts has been seeing an absolute downtick in his evaluation by most people. I think people are really seeing that the NFL is talking about getting rid of the tush push. They're talking about, well, Kelsey did retire. They're talking about getting rid of the tush push. Both of those things together, I think a lot of people are overvaluing how much that actually really hurts Jalen Hurts. I think the offense is still very good. The offense should still put up points. The Eagles know that the offense is their bread and butter. They know that the defense is a little bit of a liability at this point. So I very much think that Jalen Hurts is a good, not great passer of the football, and he can run, which is exactly what we want for fantasy. And the fact that he's sliding down to, what is he, QB4 right now, I think, in most people's ranks, is absolute slanderous to me. I mean, putting CJ Stroud, a quarterback that cannot run. Oh, okay. Here we go. I just pulled up and keep your cut, and apparently Lamar Jackson jumped him now as well. So now Jalen Hurts is QB5, and I would 100% take Jalen Hurts over CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson. CJ Stroud, I think right now is at his absolute pinnacle of his value. And if I could straight up just go Stroud to Hurts, I would do that in an absolute heartbeat.
Yeah. Quick question. Do you play in leagues where you get points for playoff wins?
Nope.
Do you play in leagues where you get points for winning football games?
Nope.
Then Jalen Hurts is a quarterback too, and this should be the end of the discussion. If we take all of his tush-push touchdowns out of it, he was still the quarterback 2 in points last year. Like, the rushing upside is there, the contract security is there, the elite supporting cast is there. There is no argument that I can hear that will move Jalen Hurts out of QB2, unless you think that his body is going to fail him, and we haven't really seen anything pointing to that yet. So I'll continue to ride the high of a rushing quarterback that's a power lifter that takes care of his body. If other people want the young, sexy guys like to get excited about pocket passers, go for it. But you'll be able to flip Jalen Hurts for a pocket passer 3 or 4 years from now when the signs start to show. So I'm all in on Jalen Hurts at his current price. If Lamar Jackson just flipped him, I'll go sell Lamar for Jalen plus. That sounds lovely.
Heck, I'll even take Lamar. I mean, I'll give up Lamar just straight for Hurts. I mean, if somebody wants to do that and I have Lamar and you want to give me your Hurts, feel free, send it over. Absolutely would be jumping through the roof of my building here trying to get that.
Yep.
All right, but moving on to the Giants, the stinky, awful Giants, the dumpster fire. Daniel Jones, I mean, technically is the quarterback 1. I mean, it feels pretty gross to say. Then we go to wide receiver, which is a bunch of trash cans. Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. Maybe if you're in a best ball league, you can justify Jalen Hyatt that also somehow gives you 40+ yard bonuses. That's about the only thing that I can think of for Jalen Hyatt. I mean, what was his ADOT was just absolutely ridiculous last year. I think it was 20 or something like that. And then Devin Singletary and Darren Waller. still. Right?
Yeah, he had the
Yeah.
first over 20 ADOT for like a while for rookie receivers. I'd love to anchor on Daniel Jones specifically. Like, they're sitting at 6. Let's say McCarthy or May fall to them. Like, they got to jump on that, right?
I mean, I guess they got to jump on it. I mean, I think if those quarterbacks are still falling and teams aren't trading up because they're not liking the offers that they're getting from New England, Arizona, the Chargers, because if those 2 quarterbacks are available, that tells me all 3 of those teams didn't go quarterback. And they're looking at staring it right in the face. I mean, that seems like a team that has so many needs, just needs at the wazoo, and that would be a perfect trade back. But at the same time, you got cap space issues. Daniel Jones is expensive to be able to cut. So, I mean, it's a tough contract to move on from.
Yeah, but let's say they take a rookie quarterback. Now you're looking at the weapons around being elevated, hopefully by improved quarterback play, or a healthy Daniel Jones. Like, we're not too far removed from a QB 10 season out in the fantasy football. Like, he is still semi-useful. I'm going to say that very, like, trepidatiously. I'm a little worried about saying it too loud, but I think between Jones, Singletary, like, now they don't have a monster at running back that they feel they need to force feed the ball. The weapons, if they decide to go receiver, like, somebody is going to get the football there, and I'm gonna end up making memes about it. I'm gonna end up making fun of it. But, like, somebody has to catch passes in New York, and, like, maybe it's Darius Slayton, maybe it's Jalen Hyatt, maybe it's they take Rome Odunze at 6. Like, there's a lot of options here. Somebody is going to be useful in New York. I have no idea who it is right now.
No clue who it's going to be. And doesn't this feel like a complete trap spot? If the Giants, for whatever reason, go like 4th round running back, people are going to be buying into that running back, pushing them up the board. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Singletary does what Singletary does. And it just absolutely eats carries. And he's not really efficient. And you just kind of see what you can get. But
Devin Singletary is like a fantasy or an NFL analyst's nightmare, because every single stat you're like looking at the bottom of the efficiency metrics and you're like, oh, he's not good. But what was his nickname? I think his nickname was like Tugboat or something, because it's just he's a big effort guy. The coaches love him because he goes in there, he does the right thing, he hits his blocks well, and when he gets the ball, he doesn't fumble. So, like, can't knock him for it. I would buy Singletary as a disgusting RB2 on a competing dynasty team. Like, go get you some running back depth. You could probably buy Singletary for a 3rd right now, and you're not getting a better running back in the 3rd.
No, yes. Singletary 100% is just one of those guys that is going to be there. He's going to be around. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to get plenty of carries. But moving on to the Washington Commanders. Looking at Mariota right now, listed as the QB1, I think we all pretty much know that they're going quarterback. Just a question of whether it's going to be May or Daniels at this point. And let us know in the comments, which one do you think they're going with, May or Daniels? Wide receiver 1, Terry McLaurin. Wide receiver 2, Jahan Dotson. Looking at 3, probably De'Ami Brown, Austin Eckler, and Brian Robinson at running back, and John Bates at tight end. Who really knows what the Commanders are doing at tight end at this point? It's pretty much an open battle. Zach Ertz, maybe, in his old back 1, maybe, of Zach Ertz's career. So I would like to anchor on Terry McLaurin, because I think Terry McLaurin in the generic dynasty space is just being completely undervalued for the production that he's gotten. Yes, quarterbacks that are rookies typically don't support very good seasons for wide receivers. Okay, you have that argument. It's there. It can be made. But let's also remember Terry McLaurin signed through 2025, and you go try and figure out what his price is right now. I mean, you're literally just scrolling. Like, you're looking at Terry McLaurin all the way down at wide receiver 38. I mean, you're talking a Hollywood Brown, Deontay Johnson. Like, I mean, who knows? Players. You'd rather have both players, Mike? Really?
Comfortably.
Oh, Oh man. All right. So we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one. I love Penn State, but Jahan Dotson has not looked like it in the NFL at all. Big disappointment. I know I traded him away for a 25-second in a couple leagues. Just trying to re-roll into future years. Makes me very sad because I do love my Penn State players, but got to move on at some point while he still has any kind of value. Tells me Terry McLaurin should still be the de facto number one. There really shouldn't be anybody challenging him for that position. But I know, Mike, you said you wanted to talk about the running backs, so give you the floor for those two running backs.
Let's talk about it real quick. So Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, these are two of the grossest running backs in fantasy football. Like, nobody's excited to draft either of these guys in the year of our Lord 2024. But the running backs coach is the same. He was the offensive coordinator in Los Angeles back when it was the Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler splits. So we can expect very similar usage where it's going to be Brian Robinson on the early downs. It's going to be Eckler on the pass catching downs. And now we have, like, if the people that are trying to sift through it and find exactly what's going on, they have already outright said, like, this is my role. This is what I want to do. Eckler said that he wanted to go to a place where he could go back to his regular usage. And I think it kills both of them. Like, both of them are basically dead. Unless Brian, like, falls into the end zone a couple of times, it's Eckler's going to get 3 catches for 32 yards and 5 carries for 15. And Brian's going to get, 12 carries for 40 yards and maybe a touchdown. So they're gross.
What do you think the odds are that they both end up as top 30 running backs in PPR this year?
Both top 30?
Right.
It's not that low.
See, I don't think it's that low either, which tells me that you should
running back 28 and 29. Like, they're not going to be good or useful.
Well, they should be flex plays. If you're looking at them, you shouldn't be looking at them as RB1, RB2. You should most definitely be looking at them as flex plays and fully expecting them to provide flex or RB3 if you have a league that is a little customizable, that does have a third running back position, because that is outside of standard in most leagues these days.
Another reason that I wanted to kind of anchor on this, who they take at quarterback will affect how in on Austin Eckler I am. If they take Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, like, they are comfortable checking it down. They understand how to go through that. Like, they know how to work through their progressions, kind of. Jaden Daniels, it's deep ball, middle crosser, I'm running. There's no, like, check down option that he has been used to, and it's going to take him some time to grow into that. And I think the timeline for him learning how to check down and the timeline that Eckler has left, there's not a lot of crossover there. So I'm a little worried about that and how it'll go. Similar thoughts?
Yeah, similar thoughts. I'm right there with you, Mike. Alrighty. So now we're moving on to the NFC West. Looks like a great division when you look at it on paper. We're going to start with the champs, the 49ers, for the NFC, coming out right there. So we're talking Purdy, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, who had a crazy ADOT. I was looking at that earlier. Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. All right. Brandon Ayuk. Contract ends the end of this year. Talks are they're not super close on their evaluations. What's your price to be able to sell Brandon Ayuk right now? 107. 107.
Or higher.
Okay. But 107.
That's where I think I can get Roma Dunze, and I just think, like, re-rolling with another talented route runner. The way that I look at it, Brandon Ayuk he's either the 2 in San Francisco, which is a great place to be, or like the 1B, whatever you want to call it, or he goes somewhere else and he is the unquestioned 1. Like, Ayuk is a top 15 talent at wide receiver, so not really worried about a situation being poor for him. Like, he's going to be an elite targeter, so I'm excited about it.
Also, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Brandon Ayuk played with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. So
Arizona State, like 12 years ago.
Yeah, well, a long time ago. I think Herm Edwards was the coach there too, if I remember that as well.
Wild.
Wild times.
What would
But
you
yeah,
sell him for? 107? 108? Like, what's the highest
107.
number I can offer?
107.
Yep.
I think his range, if you can convince somebody that JJ McCarthy is a quarterback that you want to draft, I think you can sell them on the 108. I think the highest somebody would go is 106, I would think. If you can get more than the 106 for Ayuk, I mean, all the power to you.
Yep.
But I know I've had to take, for when I'm moving off of Ayuk, I'm trying to tear off of him and get multiple shots. I've taken the 110 and the 201. I've taken the 111 and 112. You know, you're looking at those back first rounds if you're trying to get multiple assets for him. If you're just trying to 1-for-1 swap, then yeah, 107 would be my range. If I'm buying him, I'd love to have to pay the 108 because I'm not a huge JJ McCarthy stan. So I don't truly believe in him as a quarterback that I want on my dynasty teams. But that's all right. You know Debo's going to miss some games. You know Kittle's going to miss some games. I mean, you just book that into the schedule. Ayuk is typically pretty healthy, so you know that Ayuk is going to get a little bit more of a consolidated target share in the games that one of the two of those guys are out. Christian McCaffrey is going to continue to do Christian McCaffrey type things, and Brock Purdy efficiently leads this offense for the 49ers.
Yep. It's very consolidated. You start the players when they're healthy. If somebody misses time, you extra start them. Like, it's super simple for San Francisco.
All right, well, moving on to the Rams then. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Jamarcus Robinson, Kyron Williams, and I mean, Tyler Higbee's technically listed as the one right now at tight end. I mean, he's a corpse with that knee injury. So who really ends up determining and coming out in camp as that tight end one will definitely be a situation that is interesting to be able to watch. I know people have talked about Colby Parkinson because they signed him. I know people have talked about Davis Allen as well because he was a rookie last year. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to take a late round shot on somebody that could potentially be the starting tight end for the Rams because you're just looking for a best ball, trying to have 6 or 7 darts that maybe one of them ends up hitting every single week, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, I think they're viable options to try and take and boost it up. All right. Is Puka Nacua the wide receiver one on this team over Cooper Kupp, Mike?
100% yes. I've gone through a couple of different things, and Dan Wisner, DeWiz_FFB, like, great guy on Twitter to follow for some stat breakdowns. He went through and he figured out the progression of Puka Nacua and as he grew in his role over the year, and then Cooper Kupp and how he dwindled in this role over the year. Like, there's not a case to be had that Cooper Kupp comes back to be the one. He can still be very viable. He can still be very useful. But I think it's Puka's show moving forward. Do you agree? And then after that, we actually have a great question from the chat I want to get to.
Yes, I 100% agree. You look at the route combinations that they were running in the second half of the season. You look at the routes that they were putting Puka in, and just being able to look at that route tree, look at what they were asking him to be able to run comparatively to Cooper Kupp. I think 100% shows that he is the primary read at this point in the career, which is great. I mean, you got to be loving it. If you drafted Puka last year, you had that conviction to be able to do it. All the power to you. Craig, for me, I don't think they're going to draft a tight end. I think there are too many other needs, especially on the defense, and yes, they did sign some offensive linemen. So they brought in Jonah Jackson, which was a big signing. Kevin Dotson stays there, which is also big at guard. But I do think there are some questions on the offensive line that they need to be able to clean up. I think they're going to go and draft another running back to back up Kyron Williams as well. And then you just start looking at the defense, and the defense has holes just kind of all over it. Trey White, I think, was a signing that didn't get a lot of coverage at corner for the Rams. But I think most likely if they draft a tight end, I mean, you're talking late day 3, in my opinion.
I think they could be a sneaky person to grab Ben Sinnott. I think they could sneakily grab a Cade Stover. they're not going to grab one of the top two guys, but they are going to, if they draft a tight end, they're going to draft him with a purpose and with a role. It'll just be exciting to see what they do with that. And it's the next one, Puka Nacua. He's in my second tier of wide receivers after the Lamb, JJ Chase, and maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown tier. He's right under that, leading the charge. It's probably enough Rams talk for now, unless you want to talk about how long Stafford plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stafford continues to play. He's going to be a legit QB3 on your team that you can plug in if your QB1 or QB2 gets hurt and be able to keep you afloat. If you're a competitive team, he's also incredibly cheap in startups. So I think that also very much helps with his value. And now moving on to the Seahawks, we got Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Noah Fant and Kenneth Walker. Changing the offensive scheme around a little bit, I think will be interesting to kind of see how that all plays out with Ryan Grubb there, with Mike McDonald. So that'll be interesting to watch. Tyler Lockett, anybody that was trying to be out there telling you that JSN was going to be the two very easily on that offense because Tyler Lockett was going to leave, obviously didn't realize that Tyler Lockett actually has a real estate agency that he runs in the Seattle area. And he is absolutely loved by everybody in Seattle. And when the Seahawks went to him and said, hey, let's get an extension done, of course he's going to give him a hometown discount. Like, he means everything to that town. And then you look at the fact that Geno Smith is still the quarterback there. Can he distribute the ball? Yes. Can he distribute the ball well? No, he's not bad at that. So you have all of those factors. You have Noah Fant coming back as well. Still an athletic tight end. Unfortunately, injuries kind of zapped a little bit of what we thought he was going to be. But JSN, he's been holding value for the Dynasty community, Mike. So Dynasty community right now says that he's worth about a 110, 110. Would you pay that for JSN?
I don't know if I would. I think it depends on who's on the clock there, or because when you're looking at it, like that could be the wide receiver 4 in the class, and I did have 4 wide receivers ranked ahead of him even early in the pre-draft process. So I think he's an amazing talent, and I'm really excited about what he can turn into a year or two for now. But in 2024, I'm tempering expectations, and I think between the big 3, Neighbors, Marv, Odunze, and then also Xavier Worthy, like I think there are guys that could turn heads and produce early, then all of a sudden they're jumping JSN in October.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I think if you see another down season from JSN, and I'm using down relative here to expectations down, I think you could be able to definitely make a conversation that his dynasty value is going to be absolutely tanked at that point. I think if you want to get off of JSN right now, this is your chance. He's still valued relatively highly. Looking here on KTC, we got wide receiver 25, right below DK Metcalf, right above George Pickens. So yeah, I mean, he's still highly valued by the community. If I can take JSN and move up to a Pittman or a Smitty, tack on, a early third, somebody in the league is willing to do that, would love to do that. But like I said, hasn't really produced. You look at the second half of the season metrics, and he started producing a little bit better. But new offense coming in, don't really know exactly what it's going to be looking like. Tyler Lockett getting an extension, all these things kind of playing into it. But that's all I really have on the Seahawks. Want to move on to the Cardinals?
Yeah, let's move on to the early breakout for a playoff team this year, Arizona Cardinals.
All right. So we got the Cardinals, and plenty of people in the draft space have been talking about the Cardinals trading back in the NFL draft, being able to pick up more capital. We'll see if that ends up happening, or they could get an absolute stud at wide receiver and just absolutely lock down that wide receiver 1. Well, if they do decide to trade back and they end up missing on the big 3 at wide receiver, what does that mean for Michael Wilson, wide receiver 1, Chris Moore, wide receiver 2, Greg Dortch, wide receiver 3, James Conner, running back 1, Trey McBride, tight end 1, and of course, Kyler Murray, the gaming legend at quarterback. So yeah, I mean, people were thinking already, baking into Kawhi's price, that he's getting a true alpha, true number one. Michael Wilson, people are baking into his price that he is going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team. And I mean, Michael Wilson's basically, in my opinion, pretty close to free at this point. I mean, I've seen him getting moved around for thirds. I mean, I'll gladly pick him up for a third if you're telling me, best ball team where I don't have to think about starting him. I just have that 1 week where he just kind of pops off because he's the wide receiver 2. Third receiving option, because Trey McBride, everybody's favorite sleeper tight end. Oh, yes, he's going to have a breakout season. Yeah, okay. Everybody knows that by now. That's been around the dynasty space for so many months at this point. James Conner, I think, also is a sneaky buy. You look at him, if he can stay healthy, he can provide that RB2 where all you have to do is pay a low end RB3 price for him.
Yeah, I love buying James Conner, and I'll tell you, I'm actually starting to sell Michael Wilson because everybody's starting to catch on that he could be the guy. Like, the price is creeping higher, so I was able to sell him for, I think it was like the 208, which was pretty exciting for me. I want to go through this list real quick. So obviously the big three eat him for breakfast. Let's pretend Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, and A.D. Mitchell, however you feel about them, also eat him for breakfast. Like, would Keon Coleman worry you for Michael Wilson?
No.
Would Lad McConkey?
Lad plays a completely different role, so no.
Like, there's a couple of guys as we're moving down this list. Like, if Arizona adds any, with Javon Baker?
I mean, look, if Arizona adds any kind of wide receiver talent to that wide receiver room, people are going to immediately look at it and say, oh, they added somebody. Like Wilson, they don't have a ton. Nobody really loves Wilson from last year. Nobody loved what he did. He's not a shining star of the offseason. He's not somebody that people are hyping up. He's just one of those guys that if you have a later, deeper dynasty league, deeper starting lineup, especially in best ball, if you're 13, 12, just get him. I mean, he's super cheap, and he could get you 3 starts on the year.
He plays all of the snaps, and he gets targets sometimes. And for a dynasty team, that is gold. So throw him on the end of your bench for cheap, move forward with it. I think that's probably enough Cardinal stock. You want to move to the next division?
Yep, moving to the NFC North. We got the Lions with Jared Goff still looking for an extension. Amon-Ra St. Brown also due for an extension. Jameson Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then the rookie legend Samuel Porta, who is also a tight end one dynasty. So let's go through Jared Goff. I have an elite offensive line. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to be an absolute target hog. Jameson Williams seems to be very locked in to a specific role in the offense. We run really fast down the field and stretch the safeties so that Amon-Ra can work those intermediate routes to be able to pick up those 8-yard chunk plays and then also be able to run after the catch. David Montgomery going to continue to get touches. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to continue to be extremely efficient because that's what everybody thought he was going to be, and that's exactly what he showed. Samuel Porta going to continue to get touches in this offense. They play inside of a dome. I'm not concerned about late season games being cold. The turf is always going to be fast. The defense is still significantly a work in progress in Detroit, which means they're probably going to have to put up 24 plus points a game to have a chance of really competing and running away with this division.
Yeah. Jared Goff is going to continue to be the quarterback for this team because he brought them their first playoff win since color television. But there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the offense as a whole. I want to continue to get pieces of it, and it's similar to San Francisco where if they're healthy, you play them. If other pieces aren't healthy, you extra play them. So you're talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, smash every week start. Talking about Samuel Porta, smash every week start. Talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, smash every week start. As you're going through this, it's very clear who to buy and who Jameson Williams right now, I loved him pre-draft. I'm going to give him one more year, but man, it's hard to play him with any confidence right now and be excited about the future. What do you think about Jameson Williams?
If you told me that you would give me the 208 this year, I would be off of Jameson Williams because I have zero faith in him at this point. If I can get any kind of second round that is not like a 211, 212, if you told me that you would give me a 25 second and a 25 fourth, like just another dart at that point, I'll take it. Like I have zero confidence in Jameson Williams.
Well, it's really good for a receiver's development when they're hurt for their entire rookie year and then they're suspended for most of their sophomore year. But at least he's fast and has cool dreadlocks. So, I mean, that's important. There's still a sect of people that think Jared Goff isn't going to be the quarterback for the Lions long term. Like, I love Hendon Hooker too. It's okay to be excited about him. But, like, it's the Jared Goff show. Move on. I would buy Jared Goff, I think, for any pick 108 or later. I don't think that's
look. I'm willing to go all the way up to 106 for Goff.
Ooh.
Because at 106, you're telling me that the top three quarterbacks are off the board, and then Marvin Neighbors are off the board, most likely, and I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
So.
No hate there. I have a Doomsday and Bowers is like they are also that good, but I understand the thought process. And cool.
All right, well, moving on, going to the Packers, Jordan Love. I mean, absolute breakout season from Jordan Love. Some people in startups right now are drafting him as QB6, QB7. So that Love hype, some might say they've fallen in love. We also got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, which I have no clue what to do with Jaden Reed at this point. Like, I mean, they got 3 wide receivers in Green Bay. I mean, pick your poison. Which one do you want? Which one is going to take that next step? Are they all going to take a step? Are some going to take a step back? Josh Jacobs in an offense where they run the ball. Absolutely love that. Luke Musgrave, I think he is severely overrated right now in the dynasty streets at tight end because he's young and people see his athleticism. And that's what they're banking on. But I think Luke Musgraves is a very clear outside of the top 15 tight ends.
I agree. I don't think Musgrave's the best tight end on his team. Like Tucker Kraft does more when given the opportunity than Musgrave does. And when they were both healthy, it was a disgusting split, which I want to go back to Jaden Reed because I did a little bit of research on it. So among top 30 receivers, he had the most percentage of his fantasy points come off of touchdowns. If we all agree that touchdowns are not a sticky stat, we should be worried about Jaden Reed. And I'm a little worried because his prices are getting to the point that we can't draft him with confidence anymore. It's not a dart throw like Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks are. This is you are committed to this guy and he is your wide receiver 2 for your fantasy team. And I'm not there yet, especially because we can see the tight ends take a step forward. The receivers take a step forward. Josh Jacobs steal targets. Like this offense is going to continue to shift and mold and look weird. And I don't want to put my hat into the priciest corner yet until I know that he's the one. And I don't know he's the one yet.
Yeah, I think that's the sentiment going around all of the dynasty community at this point. I think a lot of people are out on Christian Watson. I think that is pretty clear at this point. A lot of people seem to be valuing Jaden Reed over him. A lot of people seem to be putting Romeo over him. When you start looking at some of the more advanced metrics, you look at target percentage, you look at targets per route run, even Dontavian Wicks, you can make a spot for him to push his way into a top 3. I mean, they have 4 young wide receivers in Green Bay that should all be hopefully taking a step forward with Love and should be able to continue to develop. But I think that's enough talk about the Packers. Moving on to the Vikings, and who the heck knows what they're going to do at quarterback. But what we do know is they are actively trying to get into that top 4. They are making it no secret that is what they're trying to do, which hopefully will provide Justin Jefferson a quarterback that can actually throw him the ball. If Sam Darnold needs to start for the season, for a little bit of the season, he is an adequate person to put in there to play quarterback. So Vikings, you're looking at quarterback Sam Darnold, you're looking at wide receiver of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Brandon Powell, running back Aaron Jones, tight end once he gets healthy, TJ Hawkinson. So Hawk, I think, is being criminally devalued right now because of the injury. I think a lot of people are just absolutely tanking him in the rankings, which I think is really interesting because in formats, he was a top 3 tight end last year, and he should be able to continue to be force-fed targets. You also have the conversation of, well, will Jefferson leave? Will he get franchise tagged and then not sign the franchise tag and basically say, hey, you got to trade me if they can't get a quarterback of consequence? I also think Justin Jefferson is probably the most attainable that he has been since his rookie season when he got drafted in Dynasty right now. He's still the wide receiver 1 for most people. But there are some people out there that are pushing him to wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. All right, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to send out offers. If you still have true conviction in Jefferson, a lot of Jefferson owners will at the very least entertain offers at this point instead of just being like, no, it's Justin Jefferson, I'm not talking to you.
I'm going to sound weird here. I might be open to sell Justin Jefferson right now. Like, given all of the uncertainty that's there and given that the baked-in price is still like, oh, I'm selling Justin Jefferson, I'm going to get 3 firsts and a tiered-down wide receiver. Like, if you can get – this isn't to say sell him just for the sake of selling him. This is sell him if you can continue to get a random king's ransom. So, in redraft, I'm probably going to push him down a little bit. But the splits with Kevin O'Connell, like, he loves to throw the ball regardless of who his quarterback is. So we saw Kirk Cousins go down, and they rolled up a ragtag team. They actually called me one week and said, hey, are you busy? We need you Sunday. Like, they're just rolling dudes out there. The pass volume was still there. And when the pass volume was still there, Jefferson was eating Addison's lunch as the king of the offense, and Hawkinson was the 2. Hawkinson's probably going to deal with his injury, like, for a little bit this year. So I think that Hawk is a great value for rebuilding teams or teams looking to 2025 and beyond. And I think the rest of the offense might actually be overvalued as you're looking at competitors this year. So deal with the Vikings offense in your own way. That's how I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah, so completely agree. All right, Mike, the question is Garrett Wilson and the 105 for Justin Jefferson. You sell him?
Do I know that Malik Neighbors or Marv is at 105?
Malik Neighbors is available at 105. Marv's not making it to 105. Okay.
I'm going to sound weird. Deal.
Okay. Cool.
I think that Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Rome Odunze are, like, those are the best wide receiver trio that we have seen in years. The fact that we are arguing over whether or not, like, there are people that are really arguing Neighbors, Odunze, and Marv to see who is the best. And Marv is the best we've seen since AJ Green. Like, this draft is insane. And I'm really excited about all 3 of these receivers.
Yeah, all 3 of these wide receivers should be a lot of fun to be able to watch for years to come, but we've spent enough time. And if only Eric was still here, he's just dying down in Florida, working a bunch of hours. So, yeah, we get to talk about his Bears without him. We're looking at the Justin Fields-less Bears. And yeah, Caleb Williams is pretty much written in pen at this point that he's coming in. You also have the 9 pick, which I think is a prime trade back spot if they can find a suitor to be able to pick up a little bit additional capital, because the Bears do still have some room to be able to work. I know they've done a ton of work this offseason. They're also a little thin on draft capital because of all the moves that they've been making this offseason. All right, Ryan Bates was a solid signing. Tevin Jenkins, former early pick, moving into guard, Braxton Jones. So the left side of the offensive line has been really good. Darnell Wright was okay last season. I think he could really take a step forward. Nate Davis, highly paid guard that came over from Tennessee, that has absolutely failed to live up to expectations. So I think they could use additional depth, especially additional versatility, which then plays into what I was talking about with my interior offensive line pick that I was really liking in Graham Barton. Trading back and being able to get a guy that can play multiple offensive line positions, I think would really help his team out in the long run. So you put all that together with the offense, you're looking at DJ Moore, wide receiver 1, Keenan Allen, wide receiver 2, Tyler Scott, question mark, at wide receiver 3, DeAndre Swift, running back 1, which I think it will be a relatively committee backfield, and Cole Kmet, tight end 1. I think Cole Kmet's dynasty value is absolutely tanked this offseason. It has gone straight down because of Keenan Allen getting there. And yeah, thoughts on the Bears, Mike?
Yeah, we'll start with the one that you wanted to highlight. So I think Cole Kmet is dead. It's quite unfortunate. Like the way that he wins and the way that Keenan Allen wins is weirdly similar, given they play completely different positions. So it's just unfortunate because this was a young and up and coming tight end and a position that needs a lot of love. I feel so bad for Justin Fields because he, coming into the league, went to a dumpster fire with no receivers. He had the ghost of Allen Robinson. He had Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had a 1,000-yard receiving season with Justin Fields. And now Caleb Williams gets to land in this beautiful, amazing place. But on the bright side, Justin Fields gets to go be a Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, Chad asked for it. I had to do it.
That game in the monsoon is like the perfect Justin Fields game because he's not expected to throw the ball at all, and all he has to do is hand it off and run it. And if he does make a bad pass, it's not Justin Fields' fault; it's the monsoon's fault.
He would be an elite Navy midshipman quarterback.
All right, so moving into the least interesting division in the NFC, I'm going to run through all 4 teams, and then we can quickly talk about it, seeing as we're about 7 minutes left in the episode here. So we're talking NFC South. We got the Buccaneers, and we're looking at Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer, Rashad White, Cade Otton. All right. We're looking at the Saints, and we're going Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Wilson, probably, Alvin Kamara, and Juwan Johnson. I think it's still Juwan Johnson, to be able to run that offense. Run that offense probably pretty poorly. And then moving on to the Falcons, everybody's favorite team to talk about from a fantasy perspective because they finally added a quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Is he the savior for Atlanta? I don't know. We'll find out. White boy Kirk going down to Atlanta, probably going to stick out like a sore thumb. So Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. They got a lot of fifth-year options on this offense, especially as skill position player. And then we got the Panthers. Panthers tried to add offensive line help for Bryce Young that can not have a all of last season. Quarterback got 4 overall pick, Bryce Young, which is Caleb this season. So, if your fan base, Deontay Johnson, who they just traded for, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, Chuba Hubbard, I'm assuming is going to be the starter over Miles Sanders. And then Tommy Trumbull, the disappointment tight end out of Notre Dame, because what does Notre Dame do? They just keep pumping out NFL tight ends, even if they're somewhat disappointing. All right, so we just ran through the entire NFC South right there. Real quick, Mike, what guys do you want to highlight?
You cut out a ton there, but let's hit on the really important things here. New Orleans Saints, Chris Olave is your lone survivor. He's the only thing to be excited about there. And even that's like, we need to temper expectations. He continues to be a top 10 wide receiver valued in fantasy, in dynasty fantasy. But in redraft, he is not cutting the mustard there yet. So we really need to see a big step forward, that year 3 jump that we all get excited for. For the Buccaneers, I mean, Mike Evans, criminally underrated, continues to string together 1,000-yard seasons and really crush the game there. But you can buy him for a mid-second right now from pretty rough rebuilding teams. So go grab you some Mike Evans and enjoy it. The Falcons, I did some math. Math in public, terrifying for me. But if we take Kirk Cousins' average attempts in his career, and then you pair that with Kyle Pitts and Drake London's target earning percentage, we have a wide receiver 1 and the tight end 1 on our hands. But you can go get Kyle Pitts for a little cheaper than you used to before. Obviously, the bump from Kirk Cousins is there, and it's going to be hard to pry him from the hands of the truther that's held him for this long. But go send out some feelers, see if you can get some Kyle Pitts, especially if you can send Kincaid and get Kyle Pitts plus. That's a move that I'll make every day of the week. And to round it out, Carolina Panthers, they finally have a wide receiver that can kind of earn targets. Not kind of earn targets. He's going to lead the league in targets this year. A little sneak preview of our bold takes battle. Deontay Johnson is an elite target earner who is paired with a rookie quarterback, ready to take that year 2 jump. So I'm excited to see what the Panthers turn into. Maybe they can finally get an offensive line around him, because they got their number 1 receiver for pennies in a trade with the Steelers. Evan, what do you hate about this?
Oh man, there's a lot of things that I hate about it. I hate the fact that Derek Carr is still the quarterback of the Saints. Yeah. So sorry, Chad. I apologize for that. We're in a tornado watch here and getting a bunch of rain. You can probably hear the thunder in the background. So I'm just glad to be online, talking to y'all, hanging out with Mike tonight. I absolutely hate that Derek Carr is still the quarterback there. It's going to limit absolutely everybody in that offense. The Saints are going to need to reset at some point. I get slandered every time I say it in any kind of manner, but the cap really is a myth. The Saints are proving that over these last 2 years in the fact that you just keep deferring and deferring, and then the cap keeps going up. What do we have? 12%, 11%, and 13%, if I remember correctly, Mike. Eventually, it comes back to roost. Okay? The hen comes back to roost. But you can get with being a poor drafting team, signing free agents for expensive contracts, deferring payments with void years down into the future, and you can get away with that for 4-5 years. You look at this is going all the way back to when they had Drew Brees, and it's still coming back to haunt them right now.
Yeah. We have 2 minutes left. Let's just talk about this instead of the rest of the things. The salary cap is real. It's not necessarily that because they can keep finding ways to finagle their way under it. But instead of going out and getting big names, instead of getting producers, instead of finding creative ways to really improve your team, they're spending all of their brain power and man hours on, oh shoot, we signed Alvin Kamara to a giant contract 4 years ago. How do I stay under the cap this year? So it's not a real, the NFL's going to come one day and say, oh, you're bankrupt and you can't play anymore. It's you just are continue to be stuck with Derek Carr as your quarterback because you have no money.
Sure. And just to make sure that it's understood, I wasn't saying that it's good for any team. It is very much a bad thing to continuously having to be finagling the cap, but you can put a product on the field that can be a 500 team. Well, not 500 anymore because it doesn't exist, but around a 500, what would have been a 500 team. And you can continue to do that for multiple years down the road. Just quickly going to over the cap, you look at the team cap space for 2025 and it's listed as negative 73.9 million. So the Saints are eventually going to have to figure something out. They're eventually going to have to do a hard reset. And just is what it is. But it's been a great show, Mike. It's been a pleasure talking with you. We survived the tornadoes here for now, and you're surviving the move. So congratulations on that. If you need some energy, if you guys are looking for something to not drag out the rest of the day, give you that little pump to keep going, go to WFFRPG at checkout.
Heck yeah. And if you guys are looking to do film studies the same way that I do, head over to the Fantasy Football Astronauts, go to their film lab, use code FFRPG. You get a little discount on there. Then you can call it a day. But it's been a pleasure, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.